A charter school is one that receives a specified amount of funding for each student that attends, and the money comes from the local school district or state. In addition, these schools often do not have to adhere to many local and state regulations, but they must meet their declared mission, which is most often created by the school itself. In other words, the school district or state gives money to a group of people, such as community members, parents, or teachers, in order to open a school that reflects a shared value and mission statement. This school is then funded as if it were any other public school, but does not need to comply to many of the same standards as other public schools do. The first charter school was opened in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1991. In 2010, 39 states had charter laws, and Wisconsin had 224 operating charter schools. School choice is a central issue among many school reform movements that have been occurring for at least 2 decades. Essentially, this movement is in contrast to former initiatives to create a common school ideal where all children receive a common education with the same ideals and cultural and political values. School choice was first federally advocated in America 2000. The essential argument surrounding this movement is that parents should have the opportunity to select the school they wish their child to attend, regardless of location. Factors such as perceived quality, school values, and educational goals are considered during the selection process instead of being limited to the school in the family's neighborhood. It is also believed that parents should have the right to raise their child with the values they deem important, and making educational decisions is one way to exercise that right. School choice is currently carried out through a voucher system. Each family receives a voucher for each child equal to the cost of tuition, and the school that child attends receives the voucher funds. From a theoretical standpoint, the mission of this is to promote a free market, laissez-faire economy within our nation's school system. It encourages competition, innovation, and creates incentives to improve schools. The theory is that the best schools will flourish, while lower performing schools are required to shape up or close. In addition, parents and children who are able to select which school the student attends tend to be more invested in the school and have higher morale. Proponents of the voucher system have argued that the ability to choose schools will allow possibilities for students who are living in low-income neighborhoods, otherwise described as the liberation model. In a sense, they will be liberated or not constrained by the neighborhood in which they live and can attend a better school outside of their low-income neighborhood. Oh, no, that was not totally clear.
Oh, I thought you were reading the
Sorry.
questions. Okay.
Yep, you're right.
I think they're the same.
Should we just continue?
Cut this out, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to pause it and move it back? Should we pause it and move it back?
I don't know if you can move it back.
I think it
Wait a second.
Why did your parents choose to send you to a charter school?
They initially didn't. When they attended the informational meetings about the school, they got the impression that the students would be predominantly white, wealthy, and exceptionally bright. My parents were uncomfortable with that idea because it didn't reflect the world that I live in. However, while I was in the first grade, they began to notice that my teacher was very unaware of my abilities. She told my parents that she was overwhelmed with challenging students, and since I wasn't a problem in class and ready to learn, she would be moving me into a parent volunteer-led reading group. They started me out by reading American Girl doll books. My parents began to notice that I wasn't learning to read, but rather memorizing the story. When my parents discussed their concerns with my teacher about my reading abilities, she told them it was more important that I had good self-esteem at that age than the ability to read. That would come on its own later. This was when my parents began to reconsider the charter school for students in grades K through 8 and entered me into the lottery. They liked the idea that I would be tested on a very regular basis in reading, math, spelling, and writing. If you were not performing at the level you started in, you would be moved to the appropriate level. They also liked that Spanish would be a part of the curriculum instead of a recess or after-school class. They were also very impressed with the requirement that parents be very involved with their child's learning. They liked the idea that the charter school was run by the local school district and still had to report to the superintendent.
How would you characterize your experience in the charter school?
I would say that it was a very positive experience. It was a struggle at first because when I joined in the second grade, I was behind grade level in all the core subjects. The teachers worked very hard to get me caught up, and by the end of the year I was. However, there was a lot more homework each night. There was spelling, reading, and math homework each night, along with writing and science homework twice a week. In elementary school, all of our core classes were taught with direct instruction, and that was a bit of an adjustment. The school was also fairly small, with approximately 40 students per grade. This allowed us to become very close with our classmates and get to know our teachers very well.
How did it prepare you for high school?
I think I was very well prepared for high school. In fact, in many ways, I found that it was easier than the charter school. On average, I had less homework per night in high school than I did in middle school. I did not feel that I was behind in any of my classes and was able to be successful in all of my classes. All of my charter school classmates graduated high school, and over half of us graduated with high honors.
Other families pin their hopes to a bouncing ball, a hand pulling a card from a box, or a computer that generates numbers in random sequence. Because when there's a great public school, there aren't enough spaces. And so we do what's fair. We place our children and their future in the hands of luck.
While optimistic expectations fueled this choice movement, it soon became clear that this system is based on exclusion. There are currently not enough charter schools within the voucher system to offer opportunities for the 46 million students in public schools. As it stands, charter schools are already strained and select students using lotteries in order to determine who will be allowed to attend. In addition, one can argue that charter schools produce a dichotomy between charter schools and low-performing schools. By providing funding and support to thriving charter schools, low-performing schools receive even less, which puts them at a further disadvantage, while still being expected to make gains in performance in order to save the school. In addition, in many cases, this promotes racial and/or financial segregation, because families will likely select schools with students of similar backgrounds, and schools will select students that meet specific criteria. Not only is there an issue of inequity among the nation's school system with this movement, but it raises concerns about a violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. That is, many charter schools have a religious affiliation and values, and by publicly funding religious education, it is in violation of the separation of church and state.
Each morning, Darius Archer is ready and eager to go to classes at King's Collegiate.
Good morning, Darius.
Charter Middle School in East Flatbush, New York.
I think the school is very wonderful because
16 years old and in the 7th grade.
Good morning.
Darius struggled with dyslexia, was held back 3 times at his former public school. But now in a charter school, he's thriving.
In my other school, people will most likely laugh at me when I try to read something, but like in this school, they'll help me and push me to keep on reading and not stop.
Oh, reading seats, guys.
King's Collegiate is one of nearly 5,000 charter schools nationwide. All are publicly funded, but they're privately run. They're not wed to the curriculum established in their district and can tailor learning plans to students' needs.
Make sure you are tracking your reading.
Their teachers are not protected by the union and are held accountable for their students' progress. For many low-income families living in urban neighborhoods with underperforming public schools, charters can seem like a hopeful alternative.
Sounds like boot camp.
Some people would say it is. We are definitely strict. We have super high expectations of ourselves and our kids, both academically and behaviorally.
Across the river in Jersey City, New Jersey, Create Charter School did not make the grade. After 9 years, its doors will close for good at the end of June.
You're the guy in charge. Why is this charter school closing? I think it's a lack of definition of accountability, a clear and distinct approach or process to evaluating to determine whether or not a school is innovative or is worthy to open or should be closed.
So the rules are too vague, you think, for charter schools?
Absolutely. And they're too subjective.
In a letter to Create's Board of Trustees, the New Jersey Department of Education said poor student performance and failure to provide a structured learning environment were among the reasons the charter was not renewed.
Just because we allow innovation doesn't necessarily guarantee that we're going to get completely positive results.
A Stanford University survey of charter schools in 16 states offers a mixed academic report card. Nearly half showed no difference, and more than 1/3 of the charter schools were actually worse than their public school counterparts. Less than 1 in 5 perform significantly better than traditional public schools.
In the hundreds of schools that are doing a great job, they obviously have cracked the code in terms of producing positive outcomes regardless of the students that they serve.
Charter schools are now the teacher's pet of education, thanks to the Obama administration's Race to the Top program, which has encouraged states to adopt significant education reforms in order to receive additional funding for public schools. In most states, lotteries are held to get into charter schools. And it's a thrill when a child gets in, but a huge disappointment when it goes the other way. In New York, 40,000 children are on waiting lists for charter schools. Good morning. Chancellor Joel Klein believes the competition will improve failing neighborhood schools, and he says teachers must be held accountable.
Those that are great should get extra awards. Those that aren't should either be able to improve or else be removed from the system. And that's what accountability is about.
But Randy Weingarten, a longtime critic of charter schools and president of the American Federation of Teachers, says the real focus should be on the nearly 90% of kids who attend traditional public schools.
I am troubled by the assumption that the only way charter schools can be successful is if they undermine public schools.
Darius Archer believes switching to a charter school was the right move for him. Now with consistent A's and B's, a child who was once failing has his sights set on college. Byron Pitts, CBS News, New York.
As you can see in this chart, although nearly 1 in 5 charter schools are outperforming public schools across the nation, more than 4 in 5, or 82% of charter schools, are performing on par or worse than public schools.
In spite of positive intentions to provide opportunities for students of low SES communities, in reality, school choice has actually widened the achievement gap. Although school choice provides advantages for several students, it disadvantages others, such as the 46 million students in public schools that are not afforded the opportunity to have a choice and attend charter schools. Due to the fact that theory does not outweigh the consequences of what is occurring in reality, school choice is not the best option for the success of public schools. What is your opinion? How do you feel about school choice?